Chapter 34, Section 2, the new global economy. And really, we're going to be talking about how our world has gotten bigger, but it's also gotten smaller. And a lot of this is due to technological advances, new trade laws, the fact that, while we have the United States of America, most of the things you own come from somewhere else. And so we're going to try to kind of pull the hood back and see why that is so important. And so first off, let's look at U.S. economics post-World War II. Now, the United States was in a booming economy post-World War II. But there was a trend that began in the 1950s that's continuing till today. The fact that manufacturing jobs are leaving this country. They are going elsewhere. That because of consolidation, like many of you pointed out, that if you can make something cheaper somewhere else, if you can reduce your cost, you can translate that savings to your consumer. We know how supply-demand works. If your product is cheaper, people will buy more of it. Ergo, making something cheaper leads to greater profit, which has led to globalization. How does that affect us? Well, that means that most of the emerging jobs in our region are coming up into service-related jobs. You're not going to find a job making video games in an assembly line. Sorry. But you might find a job in video games. Now, you're not going to be, taking said cog and pushing it into said piece of hardware. No, that's done somewhere else. You might get to design them, though. That'd be really cool. You might be writing the code that is the next new whatever. You might be coming up with something that someone else will make. Those are called service-related jobs. Now, in some cases, those jobs pay far better than manufacturing, especially if you're in computer science or R&D or technology. But many service jobs pay less than equivalent manufacturing jobs. These are jobs like working in retail. My best local example would be Augusta. About 30 minutes from here until the early 2000s, there was a giant plant called Augusta. They were a manufacturing plant. They were located right in Pisgah Forest, and they employed many folks in Henderson and Transylvania counties. And then in the early 2000s, they left. And all those years later, they've been cleaning up that site, and now they're about to begin construction on the new thing. Now, guess what? It's not a new Augusta. It's a set of shopping centers. Hey, there'll be some new clothing stores. Yay! There'll be a Starbucks probably. Cool. There'll be a Cheddar's maybe. I don't know. But the scary thing about that reality is those Augusta jobs, man, you could support an entire family with that kind of job, but not working at Cheddar's. See, those service jobs have directly replaced those manufacturing jobs, and that's just the world we live in. And another reality we have to face is that many companies are downsizing. Another case in point, Dupont Corporation. Now Dupont State Forest, right? Well, once upon a time, Dupont Corporation made film. Back in the days when you had to buy the film, load your camera, and then take the film to Walmart, and they turned it into pictures for you. Well, we don't do that anymore. You snap selfies on your phone. You like them, great. Not, delete. No Walmart, no film, no middle people. So DuPont downsized. They were a conglomerate, meaning that they just focused their efforts on something else, but they don't need that film line anymore. Ergo, they shut that plant down. Those were the two biggest employers in Henderson and Transylvania County. Well, now what can you find a job in DuPont? Well, there's an ice cream shop. I like ice cream, right? Is it going to pay you what DuPont paid you? No. You could work as a ranger. That's a decent job. Limited employment opportunities. That's it. Oh, there's a hot dog stand. Sorry. But that's it. My point is that once upon a time, DuPont Corporation employed thousands of people in Henderson and Transylvania County. Now, nothing because of downsizing. Another reality we have to face is that union membership has declined. From 1964 at an all-time high where 30% of employees were involved in some union in some way or another. Now the number is down to basically 10%. Another reality we have to face. When I'm walking my son around the neighborhood, I also, people watch. That's what most of us do, right? Well, I'm always seeing the Domino's delivery car out. And I don't know, I just think about it. Because I realize I've also seen in the news that drones can now deliver pizza. And that's a thing. It's in the early stages. It's not yet replacing delivery drivers worldwide, but it's cheaper. There's no one to pay. No one that you have to tip. It's easier for the company. They know they can predict exactly when they hit the button to when it will be at the place. Well, guys, that's good for business. You order that pizza, you want it at 9:03. You don't want it at 9:07. Bad business. You want it at 9:03. You want to be able to predict the time when that pizza will arrive. And you really want to have to deal with a person? That's not your best life when you're dealing with ordering pizza. No. Just take it out of the box, boom, eat your pizza. Robots are replacing people in so many different fields. Think of advanced manufacturing. We don't need you to pull a thing off a wire and put it in a box. Robots can do that. Amazon is in the process of replacing many of their warehouse workers with robots because they found that the robots can do it more efficiently, they can work around the clock, and they don't ask for pay raises. And so these declines in industrial jobs have also led to declines in union membership because, bottom line, stack of applications is just as true as it ever has been. And with robots replacing jobs, with outsourcing replacing jobs, that's left a lot of people out of work. And so, of course, the new emerging fields are often in technology, but many of those older fields, like, sadly, soon to be drivers, or even low-skilled operations like working at the warehouse at Amazon, those jobs are becoming fewer. All right, so the growing fields have been in technology. I mean, really, since the early 1980s when the first personal computer came out, there was an economic just explosion of new jobs in this field. When Microsoft was founded in the earlier mid-1980s, Bill Gates became quickly the richest man in the world. In fact, there's a whole separate stock index to measure the technology field because it seems to operate on different rules. Dow Jones goes up, goes down, goes up, goes down. But technology has been going up. For the past 40 years, technology has not seen a recession. I mean, I'm no math whiz, but I would predict that it's going to continue to go up and that it's a very safe field to go into. Now, there was a little hiccup with that trend, and it was in the early 2000s. So as the internet was becoming more widely available, so the first I saw of the internet was the mid-90s. It was a thing before that, but that was the first time it was kind of hitting popular consumers. By the early 2000s, so many companies had developed websites and paid for and purchased domains. There were really too many. The market was kind of saturated. And so many of those went out of business. And so that was the only dip in technology that we've seen in about 40 years because it quickly rebounded. But now, international trade. Throughout the 90s, U.S. trade with other countries contributed to over a quarter of the U.S. economy. Over a quarter of all the goods and services and all the value of our country is tied up with international trade. And today, I would almost bet it's an even bigger percentage today. And so what does this mean? Well, instead of talking about nations, economists really talk more about trading blocks. Since so many corporations and so many of the things that we own and buy are coming from multinational corporations that really transcend the normal political rules, we just look at it as there's the technology block, there's the agricultural sector, here's energy block, etc., etc. And so as a result, the problems that we're dealing with economically are bigger than just Gibbons versus Ogden, or Marbury versus Madison, or McCulloch versus Maryland. It's not state-to-state conflicts anymore. It's not even nation-to-nation conflicts. Really, global corporations have become, in a way, more important, which is why we have the World Trade Organization to try to resolve global disputes. And I wanted to kind of finish with a little infographic here. 1 in 5 U.S. workers in the private sector work for a multinational corporation. If you go work for Apple, you're not just working for an American company. You're working for a company that does business everywhere. Now, U.S. multinational corporations, domestic versus foreign, as of 2010, Walmart, domestic company, accounted for $311 billion of sales in the United States. But about a third of that was also coming from other countries. Think of ExxonMobil. And so, by the way, once was U.S. Oil, now ExxonMobil. Almost the same in terms of domestic versus foreign sales. Now, international competition does lead to lower wages. As we're moving operations overseas because it's cheaper to make a t-shirt in Malaysia than it is here. Even NAFTA, the idea of linking the economies of Canada, the United States, and Mexico, has translated to jobs moving to different countries. And as a result, the demand for American labor has gone down, meaning that many U.S. companies can now get away with paying minimum wage for jobs that they just could not have previously. And so the reality is that when other nations that we rely on experience a global slowdown, when things are going badly in other parts of the world, it affects us. And so that global economics affects you, whether you want to or not. For example, China's GDP has slowly gone up. What does this mean? Well, the simplest explanation is it means your gas prices have tripled in the past decade. Because as their economy has prospered, that's also put an increasing demand on oil. Now that's the downside. But the good side is that their economy doing well translates to cheaper products for us. Okay.